I welcome you all on the behalf of School of Law to today's celebration of Human Rights Day on 10th of December 2021. Human Rights Day is celebrated across the world on 10th December, as on this particular day in 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. It was also the first international agreements on the basic principles of human rights. Before we start the program, I would invite all of us to raise for the Kulgeet. Thank you, everyone. Human rights are the most basic rights which are bestowed on each and every individual. Every human being on this planet, irrespective of the caste, creed, gender, nationality, social status, or color, are entitled to these rights. On this note, I invite Professor Satyakamji, our Pro Vice Chancellor, to give the opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Sunitji. आदरणीय श्रीमती ज्योति कालरा जी, जो आज की हमारी मुख्य अतिथि और मुख्य वक्ता हैं, मेंबर नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन, और टुडे we are going to listen the lecture why human rights are important. This is a very important day, Human Rights Day, and we are taking this lecture and this day in high esteem. This is a pertinent question. Today we are going to listen why human rights are important. Human rights basically is a part of our life. And why human is human? Because संवेदनाएं हैं, इसके भीतर दूसरों के प्रति आदर का भाव है, और साथ साथ एक साथ हम लोग मिलकर चलें, मिलकर काम करें, इसी भावना से मनुष्य मनुष्य बनता है और मनुष्यता में मनुष्य में मनुष्यता का भाव उदित होता है। आज जिस व्यक्तित्व को हम लोग सुनने जा रहे हैं, मिस ज्योतिका कालरा जी को, who is a honorable member of National Human Rights Commission, and it is very important that our school of law is organizing this program. I congratulate them. And our esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageshwar Rao, is always a spirit behind us to organize these programs. And Dr. Suneet Kumar Srivastava ji, Kashyap Srivastava ji, is a very dynamic director, and she, from his short period of directorship, she has organized many illustrious programs. I also welcome my esteemed fellows, pro-vice chancellors, and all dignitaries who are present here. And I will not take much time because we are here to listen Srimati Jyotika Kalra ji. Namaskar, dhanyavad.
Thank you, sir. You've always been an inspiration for us to organize these type of programs. Since I've joined as a director, School of Law, you've always been encouraging. I'm really thankful for that. समाज में अधिकार मानव के समग्र विकास में अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। हम अपने अधिकारों को व्यक्तिगत रूप से उन स्थितियों में संदर्भित करते हैं जिसके तहत व्यक्ति अपने लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करने के लिए अपने विशेष अधिकारों का प्रयोग कर सके। हमारा संविधान ऐसे मानव अधिकारों को मौलिक अधिकारों के रूप में मान्यता देता है और उनकी संरक्षण करता है, जैसे समानता का अधिकार, स्वतंत्रता का अधिकार इत्यादि। It is a pleasure today we have with us prominent figure and subject expert, Honorable Member, National Human Rights Commission, Srimati Jyotika Kalra ji. Before I invite her to deliver, I would like to give a brief introduction about her. Srimati Kalra joined National Human Rights Commission in April 2017. Before joining the commission, she was a practicing advocate and advocate on record with the Honorable Supreme Court of India. She has filed many public interest litigations. Significant among them is opening up a channel for females to practice as makeup artists in cine industry after 60 years of independence. Raising the issue of non-recruitment of women in the armed forces resulted in opening of opportunities for women in territorial army. She has conducted many awareness and gender sensitization programs with schools, colleges, universities, government and non-government organizations. She was a member of many sexual harassment committees and has dealt with many sexual harassment complaints. After being appointed as a member of National Human Rights Commission, she has been dealing with subjects like women, children, LGBTI, trafficking, reproductive rights, etc. Under her leadership, many workshops have been conducted in the Commission as well as in different parts of the country relating to POCSO, Juvenile Justice Act, restorative justice, sexual harassment at workplace, gender, equality, and economic development. She has been honored by the Supreme Court of India for her 3 books. She was also given the award of Outstanding Women in 2014 by the National Commission for Women. She was on the expert committee of NCW and deliberated on drafts of women-related laws. She was appointed amicus curiae in important matters, some of them concerning violation of human rights. She was also on the panel of the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. Now, ma'am, I invite you to please deliberate on the topic, why human rights are important. Please, ma'am. Ma'am, we can't hear you. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Sunit and Professor Nageshwar Rao, who is not there, Professor Satyakam, Pro Vice Chancellor IGNOU. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to address the students or the faculty of Indira Gandhi National Open University School of Law. The topic is very relevant because today is Human Rights Day, and it is it's a very broad or a very topic which anything can be said on this topic, why human rights are important. And because whenever you're talking about human rights, it has to be something like that. Being human, you are entitled to human rights. So before you are born, your rights are there. And even after your death, your rights are there. So human rights are there even before your birth. And human rights remain even after your death. So your last rights to be performed with dignity of dead is also part of human rights. And the child in the womb has all those rights of food, of nutrition. And her or his mother should also get that nutrition is that child's human rights. So having said that, it's really, really a very vast and very broad subject. I would come to the topic, and why we are discussing this today is because this day was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on 10th of December 1948. It was General Assembly Resolution 217A of United Nations, and the object was to have a common standard of achievement for all people and all nations. This is the emphasis, is that let everybody, nobody should be left behind. So there should be common standards of achievement for all people in all nations. The preamble of this UDHR, Universal Declaration, says, a part of the preamble which I'm referring to, whereas recognition of inherent dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all members of human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. So the points which have been touched upon in this preamble refers to, first, inherent dignity. So why human right is important? Because inherent dignity is important, because every human being has human right to be treated with dignity. And then why human rights are important? Because the preamble of the Universal Declaration says that the rights are equal and inalienable rights, that every human being should be able to enjoy the rights equally, and the rights which are being enjoyed by that human being are inalienable. They cannot be transferred, they cannot be shifted. So I think, Sunit, if you can pin my photo on the screen. Okay, but मेरे को नहीं दिख रही. अच्छा, anyway, so I will proceed. And then this preamble further says, नहीं, मेरी कर दो नहीं, it should be, people should be able to see that. It's not like what is, I don't want to see myself, but the view should be speaker view, na? The speaker view, yes, Sunit, I think in your, am I there as a speaker?
Yes, ma'am, you are a speaker view. It's the speaker's view.
Okay, because my system, it is showing you as a speaker.
No, so you are the speaker view.
Okay. So then I'm going further. So the preamble further says that the moment you ensure equal and inalienable right, when the moment you ensure dignity to the human being, it is the foundation for the freedom, peace, and justice in the world. So it's not a very simple thing. It says these dignity and equality itself lays down the foundation for justice and peace in the world. So the concept of, universal peace, and peace is also only be achieved when there is justice. So the universal justice followed up by peace is possible when there is an inherent dignity and when there are equal and inalienable rights. And going further, I mean, the Article 1 of this UDHR further says that all human beings are born equal and they are born free with dignity and rights. And the further point, which I always emphasize, is it says that they are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. So that's very important. This preamble or the Article 1 of this declaration says that all human beings are endowed with reason and conscience, that we keep making other understand that you do not know, and I will let you know, only then you will understand. But this Article 1 says that every human being is born with reason and conscience. And the fraternity which our constitution refers to, equality and liberty and fraternity, which our preamble refers to, this Article 1 also mentions about should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. So equality, dignity, reason, consciousness further says that justice, peace, it makes another dimension, that is brotherhood. So why human rights are important? Why the human rights are important? Because human rights emphasize upon brotherhood. It emphasizes upon fraternity. So the moment we mention about human rights, the sense of brotherhood, sense of belongingness towards each other, human beings, is there. And I today, because even today the Honorable President was there in the program of National Human Rights Commission at Vigyan Bhavan, and the Honorable President mentioned about the contribution of Hansa Mehta, who was Indian delegate when this UDHR was being deliberated upon, and it was Hansa Mehta who made this declaration as rights of human beings. Because earlier, when I said, I referred to Article 1, I said all human beings are born free. Before human being, it was all men are born free and equal. So it was Hansa Mehta who changed it from, otherwise, we would have been discussing all, I mean, men are born free and equal. It was Hansa Mehta because of whom this has come, that all human beings are born free and equal. And Honorable President of India mentioned about this today in Vigyan Bhavan in NHRC's program. And the United Nations representative also mentioned about the contribution to in the program Hansa Mehta had made towards the finalization of this Universal Declaration. And I would also like to quote Anantio Guterres, the 9th Secretary General of United Nations, and I quote, Hansa Mehta of India, for example, without whom we would likely to be speaking of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of Men, Universal Declaration of Rights of Men, rather than human beings. And I am quote. So this is what I want to say. And when I'm referring to Hansa Mehta, I'm also referring to gender, integration of gender perspective. In case the net is not. So I'm also referring to the gender perspective. My point of mentioning Hansa Mehta is that when we are talking about equality, the basic area which equality touches upon is equality between amongst men and women, equal opportunities. So the women had performed so well. So this equality, dignity should be ensured to women as well, as at the same power, at the same level as is being available or enjoyed by the men. And I would also like to make some practical, share with you some of the practical examples of violation of human rights. There are certain issues when we say that this tender amounts to violation of human rights, and this is also in furtherance of why the human rights are important. So So, human right means protection from misgovernance. Like the children who do not get institutional birth, the women don't get ambulances to reach to the hospitals, or the operations being performed in the hospitals are not being performed with the medical expertise, which results in maybe death of mother or death of child. So these are all violation of human rights. Why it is important to have human rights? Like, it is the obligation has been put upon the National Human Rights Commission under the statute, that wherever a government servant or a public servant is at fault, or his negligence, like doctors in the government hospitals or even the private hospitals, uh, their mis their misgovernance or their negligence is violation of human rights. So it is important to have human rights. Even, the quality of education which the children get in the school institutions, like we keep getting the complaints that the day boarding schools or the government institutions, residential schools, they do not have the safety norms. The boundary walls are not there, the toilets are not there. So these are they are or the quality education is not there, the teachers are not there. So all these complaints reveal or make out the case of violation of human rights. So when we talk of human rights, the human right, having a child has a human right to have quality education. The child has a human right to have safe schools, to have hygiene toilets. So this is all in furtherance of the human rights. And those social cultural practices which is prevalent in our society, like khap panchayat, like witch hunting or devdasi system. These are all systems which I mean target the women, and they are just because they are women, uh, and at times these women are being killed, or they are being tied with the trees, and they are being, thrown, stones are being thrown on them. This is all violation of human right. This is all violation of their right to live with dignity. So this is dignified life is human right. And going further, the majority of the complaints which the commission receives are the complaints by the women. And out of those majority complaints, the complaints mainly are the complaints against the police. At times, the complaints are to the effect that the police is not registering the cases, or the FIRs are not being registered, or the investigation is not being done. And at times, the complaints are to the effect that police atrocities, like the poor and the vulnerable, are being tortured in the police stations, or the women are being raped in the police stations, or there are sexual assaults on the women by the police personnel. So different kinds of or categories of complaints which are being received. Similarly, the complaints of for fake encounters, the complaints of custodial death, like police custody death. So that's also the category of the complaints which are received, and they are violation of human rights. And human rights are important because this, when happens, one says that by human rights are violated, although the statutory rights are also violated. But for a person, for a layman, yes, being a human being, I need to enjoy all these rights. And as I said, that the police is a part of investigation. The investigation is also supported by the medical team or the forensic team. Medical team is the doctors who conduct the medical examination of the person who has been tortured by the police or who has died in the police custody. So that medical team conducts the maybe postmortem or the examination of the deceased person. So the commission, the protection of human rights demands that that postmortem has to be done in a proper manner, because until that postmortem is done correctly, the evidence which might emerge against the guilty police officer may not come. The postmortem to be done correctly, the commission NHRC has issued directions that the postmortem should be videographed. It should be recorded by way of a video. So this is how the Commission conducts itself in protection of human rights, by creating some precautionary measures, by taking some precautionary measures or abundant precautions, so that the human rights are protected. Similarly, the forensic, the evidences for proving any person to be guilty is very important. So Commission also takes care of the fact that by organizing workshops and meetings and programs, and then about forensic functioning of forensic labs also, then recommendations are being sent that there should be duly the persons should be there to run the forensic labs. The Commission has also issued advisory on how should the forensic tests be performed for a rape victim. So detailed Commission, like why it is important to protect human rights is that Commission considers that wherever possible, the institutional mechanism should be there. The the systems should be set in place. The institutions should be set in place. The procedure to be followed should be standardized, so that there is a minimum possibility of violation of the human rights. And I mean, apart from these factors, as I gave you the examples of violation of human rights, there are reasons also, why the mighty and the powerful are able to violate the human rights. The reasons are like poverty. Poor people, they suffer, and if you have seen this film of Jai Bhim, how the poor tribals are being tortured by the powerful lobby of the society, including the police and the administration. So this poverty is also one of the challenge to the human rights. And because of poverty, not only that the poor are being tortured by the police authorities, but other things, which they suffer. This is like not having the access to the toilets, or going into the sewers and septic tanks to clean the sewers, etc. Manual sponging, which we call the child labor or the child marriage. These are all the violations of human rights which emerge because of poverty, because of people lesser resources at the disposal of the people. Similarly, why the human rights are being violated and they should be protected. Another reason or the challenge is lack of education. I mean, people don't have access to the information. The schemes are there, the policies of the government of India are there, but they are not able to access those information. And these people are not being not being able to access to the resources meant for those people. And uh, I mean, this is then the recent, the NFHS data which has come has also shown the lack of nutritious food because of malnutrition. The child stunting is there, the child wasting, and the underweight children are there, child mortality is more. So these are also, the challenges of challenges to the ensure or the protection of human rights. I mean, I can go on and on and on and to speak on the subject, but I think the basic concept is understood, and the other areas like targeting a specific group, like women generally become a target group, maybe or majorly because of the fact that they're the weaker sex, and because of which there are sexual violences against women, there are domestic violence against women, discrimination, and there are gender stereotypes which exist or which is there against the women. Uh, and I will like to conclude by referring to uh, uh, one point that which has been said by Helen Keller. And I'm saying that it is just by saying National Human Rights Commissioner, the courts, or the legislature, all are in place, but for ensuring that the human rights are being protected, many have to work together, including women. Men and women both have to work together. And I quote Helen Keller, until the great mass of people shall be filled with the sense of responsibility for each other's welfare, social justice can never be attained. So each one of us should have a sense of responsibility for each other's welfare. And and as it has been said about the brotherhood, about the fraternity, so I will conclude by one Shabad from Guru Granth Sahib, which had said that Awal Allah Noor Paya, Kudrat ke sab bande, Ek Noor te sab jag upja, Kaun bhale kaun mande. So Guru Granth Sahib had, Guru Nanak Dev had said that all we are born from one single source. So we are all from the same single light. So there is no reason for any one of us to be superior than the other. And thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, ma'am. A much needed lecture in today's context. Ma'am, you have talked about gender issues, violation of human rights. You've talked about gender issues, violation of human rights, equality between men and women, people to live with dignity, and also about the basic rights like hygiene, food, etc., which involve human rights. You've also talked about reasons why there are violations of human rights. And you mentioned that poverty is one of the reasons, one of the factors which leads to the violation of human rights. You also spoke about challenges of human rights. You have very nicely spoken about, you have taken all the areas about human rights. I also request you, ma'am, if you could, because since you are talking about women rights, if you could stress more on women rights, we would be really enriched from your lecture.
What specifically do you want me to speak on women rights? Like,
Ma'am, the work which you are doing on women rights, especially the PILs which you had taken.
Okay, I'm into public life for the last more than 20 years now. It's like almost 5 years that I am as a member National Human Rights Commission. Previously, I was a practicing advocate with the Supreme Court of India. I mean, it's surprising that even now there are legislatures and laws which discriminate against women. The Charu Purana matter, which you referred in the beginning, is it was pertaining to Bombay. The union, makeup artist union, they were not enrolling. I mean, they were not taking on roles. The women makeup artists, and the women were allowed only to do the hair setting. And this woman Charu Purana, she applied in that union, and in cine industry, nobody is allowed to practice as a makeup artist or anything in the makeup cine industry until you are enrolled with the union. So she applied to the union, and the union gave a reply to her that, look, if we start giving membership to the women to work as a makeup artist, so nobody will go to a men. Everybody, because there are many females and they are very scantily dressed, so everyone would like to get her or his makeup, and men maybe or more interested in getting the makeup done by the female. So everybody would go to a female, and our men would be rendered jobless or workless, and this will indirectly impact their families. So so that's the reason they gave a logic that why are we not giving the card to the female makeup artist. And when I was in Supreme Court, when I filed this petition, Justice Deepak Mishra, it was before Justice Deepak Mishra, and the moment I gave him this logic that we are not giving cards to women to act as a makeup artist because it would be at the cost of the livelihood of men. The notice of my writ petition was issued to the states, etc. And finally, we won that matter. So, discrimination, and then, some of the armed forces, Babita Punya matter, that women in the armed forces were not given the permanent commission. And I think the Delhi High Court decided maybe 7 years before in favor of the army officers that they should be given permanent commission. But the Union of India came in appeal before the Supreme Court, and Ministry of Defense was the petitioner, and Babita Punya was the respondent. Supreme Court, after so many years, again put a certificate on the point that women army officers needs to be given permanent commission. And earlier, it was only the women were allowed, officers were allowed to work only for the short service commission, which is I think for 10 years. And not only that, there was no entry for women in the through NDA, National Defense Academy. That channel has also opened for women. I think till now the discrimination was continuing. That channel has recently been opened that women to go through NDA, and admission of females or girls in the army schools, or what do they call it as in, I mean, boarding residential schools of army. So that has also been uh, introduced or allowed. So these are some mota examples which are on record. There are discrimination against women, and for Judge Advocate General exam, the petition which I had filed, uh, this is for the lawyers to become Judge Advocate General in the army. But that petition, that case also had a ground that married women will not be married law graduate women will not be allowed to uh, appear for the examination of the Judge Advocate General exam. And imagine she is going to be a judge. So her being a male and female RV, you might have a logic that she has to fight on the front or something, but for a judge, it is the mind which has to decide. But still, this condition was there that a married woman will not be allowed. And when Ministry of Defense filed its reply, and their typical reply is always that if we enroll married women as judges, it will cost us a lot because they will have to give them maternity leave, maternity benefits. So one thing they will take leave, and the other thing that we'll have to pay for it. So justifiably we are right in not employing married women. And that petition was also allowed in a manner that court said, okay, if you're not taking married women, you the Ministry of Defense said we will also not take married men. Similarly, a petition in the territorial army, women were not allowed to get them recruited. And territorial army is also not an army kind of a thing. They only work during the peace processes, and so in peace processes they need to work with the women. They need to work in during floods, during fire or earthquake. They need to work with the society. They need to have women to work with the women. So finally, that my territorial army petition was Push Kalra versus Union of India. Both these petitions. Push is a man who works for the rights of women, and that was allowed. That territorial army, the women have been allowed. So these are some of the public interest litigation which have filed qua the women right, where there is a blatant discrimination against women by in the government system.
Thank you very much, ma'am. As I told, it's a very much needed lecture in today's context, and especially for the women's rights, which you have talked about. We are really elated to listen from you, and we would go on and on listening to you. But and we're waiting for our Honorable Vice Chancellor to join us. He's actually in a meeting where some visitors have come and joined him. So we're waiting for him. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to mention that this year's human rights theme relates to equality and Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, uh, which speaks about all human beings are born free and equal in dignity with rights and dignity and rights. So, now if you could elaborate something on this.
I think I started with this Article 1.
Yeah.
I began with Article 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience, right, and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. When I explained it, that it's not for the namesake that you talk of equality and dignity. The moment equality and dignity is there, the moment you have that realization that human beings are endowed with reason and consciousness, it ensures, and they treat each other with the spirit of brotherhood. So I take it back to the preamble that it ensures freedom, justice, and peace, equality, dignity, brotherhood, and treating each human being that he has reason and conscience, and treating one another with the spirit of brotherhood, will certainly ensure justice and peace, and will certainly ensure freedom to all of us.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I would invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor. He'll be joining us in some moment.
And reducing, I would like to add a little to that. Equality would also include reducing inequalities. As I said, the equality amongst men and women, equality amongst women. So if you want to understand as to what the equality is, the in bracket, of course, it is reducing inequality. Until we reduce inequality, the equality will always remain a dream. So rather than working on the equality, we should work on reducing inequality. Until unless inequality is reduced, I think equality will always remain a क्या कहते हैं उसको, will only be an illusion.
That's very true, ma'am. We have to reduce the inequality between among us. And as we have the right to equality, Article 14 of the Constitution, which should be practiced in two sense.
I mean, it can be practiced like at every step. We have to see whether it is adding to inequality or it is reducing inequality. So we must take each and every step aiming towards reducing inequality. Inequality between haves and have-nots, rich and poor, educated, uneducated. We should all have equal opportunities. And equality is treating equals equally. It's again, equality doesn't mean that everybody is equal. Equality is treating equals equally. So that's also one of the way of looking at equality.
That is very true.
Amongst that group, there should not be any inequality.
Yeah, we have the reasonable classification in Article 14 of the Constitution, which is already there in the Constitution. Also, it's mentioned that equality should means equal among equals. Equality among equals.
Equals to be treated equal.
Equals, and that is why we use the reasonable classification. Also, that equals should be equalities can only be seen.
Reasonable qualification is in furtherance of equals to be treated equally. You cannot treat everybody equally. Equals to be treated equally.
The slogan for 2021 Human Rights Day is also all human, all equal. And I believe, ma'am, you'd really speak something on that. All human, all equal.
Please, I mean, that I said that equality is an inalienable right. Right to dignity is that indicates toward that all humans are all equal. We cannot have two separate standards for somebody, and we can't have although practically it doesn't happen like that. It apparently is an academic discussion that we are saying that we need to treat everybody equally. Practically it doesn't happen. So that's each individual should be treated equally. That will take a lot of time for realization of that.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We are just waiting for our Honorable Vice Chancellor to join us. And just 2 seconds, ma'am.
Because this 40 minutes
Thank you, ma'am. It was a pleasure to hear your views. We Indians have always considered, I'm very sorry to say that Honorable Vice Chancellor will not be able to join us because he has some visitors with him. So we'll be ending the program, and I'll be giving the vote of thanks. The slogan, we Indians have always considered the slogan Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, which emphasizes the unity of minds to create healthy and powerful organizations for the prosperity and happiness of all, which is only possible when we consider every human being to be equal and every human being to live with dignity. With that note, I present the vote of thanks for today's function.
Okay, so should we leave?
Ma'am, I'll first present the vote of thanks, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm really thankful, ma'am, to you, member NHRC, Srimati Jyotika Kalra ji, who had spared her valuable time and had consented to take a session on this auspicious day by taking a very important session, why human rights are important. Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming. We are really elated by your lecture. I would thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who had consented and had also given me the approval to organize this program. Thank you very much, sir. I would also thank Professor Satyakam ji, Pro Vice Chancellor, for agreeing to be a part of this function, and also taking out some time for us, although he's sharing another function just after this function. At 4 o'clock, he's having his own function, but still he had taken this time. I'm really thankful to you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I would like to thank Professor R.P. Das ji for joining us. I would like to thank Negi ji for joining us. I'd like to thank COE Director for extending all the technical support. I'd like to thank Professor Sumitra ma'am for joining us. And I would also like to thank all the directors, head and regional directors for joining us. Thank you everyone to make this program a success. Now, I would like to request all of us to rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा